Hey everyone, Justin here. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know, I was just hanging out with my little nephew. He's adorable. He's like 2.5 years old. It was great, but got to a point where he was driving me nuts because he kept going, just like, oh, give me the cookie. Oh, give me the truck. Oh, give me the milk. Give me. So, you know what I did? I just stood up, looked at him directly in the eye, and I just said, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shores. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. And he just stared at me in awe. And I looked at him and I said, dear nephew, that was a poem titled The New Colossus. And today, it is engraved on a plaque on the Statue of Liberty, a statue known around the world as a symbol of freedom. So I'm pretty sure a toddler has no way of understanding any of that. But he giggled, and he drooled a bit, and he went back to playing with his truck. So I count that as a win. But I'm sure you'll understand it. You and I are going to be learning about the Statue of Liberty today. Plus, I'll be telling you some cool new things that you probably didn't know before. Let's get started, shall we? Ah, yes, the Statue of Liberty. Many of you have heard of it, read about it, seen pictures of it, or maybe even visited it in New York City. So, what's the big deal? Didn't some guy just put a statue up in the middle of New York Harbor? Wrong. Get ready to learn some amazing facts about the Statue of Liberty, as well as the important history of the many people that came together to bring it to life. Several presidents and even school kids like you had a part in the making of the Statue of Liberty. But first, let's do a little quiz just for fun. Which of these following statements is not true? The Statue of Liberty has been A, damaged by a bomb, B, struck by lightning, C, a lighthouse used to guide ships, or D, painted a bluish-green color. Did you make your guess yet? The answer is D. This is the only statement that's not true. You'll learn why in a little bit, but first things first. The Statue of Liberty is a national landmark in the northeast region of the United States. A landmark can be an object, like a statue, or a building, or even a special area of land. It becomes a national landmark when the United States government decides that it's important to America's history. This proud statue, also known as Lady Liberty, has its beginnings in France. Now, you may be asking yourself, why does an American symbol of freedom have its beginnings in France? Well, it's because it was the idea of this man, Edouard de la Boulaye. He loved the friendship between his country of France and America, and he wanted to present a gift honoring that friendship. He also wanted to celebrate the 100-year anniversary of America's independence from Britain, and the end of slavery in the United States. So then this guy, French artist Frédéric Auguste Bartholdi, was hired to create the statue and fulfill La Boulay's dream. Bartholdi began work on the statue in 1870, 6 years before America would be celebrating its 100th birthday. Now that is some birthday gift. But there's a problem. France didn't have enough money to design and create and ship this statue over. They needed help. So Bartholdi came to America and started talking with a bunch of people here, including US President Ulysses S. Grant. Alas, still no money. Still nada. But it wasn't all for nothing though. Bartholdi knew the perfect place to put the statue now. It was a little island in New York Harbor called Bedloe Island. Now, don't forget, people didn't travel in planes back then. Bartholdi knew that anyone who was coming to America would be arriving by boat and would see this statue, this symbol of freedom, first thing as they entered the harbor. Okay, but back to the whole money problem. Everyone Bartholdi talked to in the US loved the idea, they just didn't want to cough up the funds. So eventually it was decided that France would be the one to pay for the statue and America would be the one to pay for the pedestal. So the statue's got to stand on something and it needs a foundation. So that's this part right here on the bottom, the pedestal. In France, people began starting events and even a lottery to help fundraise for the completion of the statue. And in the US, people started fundraising for the pedestal. People put on auctions, plays, art shows, boxing matches. Some school kids even donated their birthday money or their paper route money to help pay for the pedestal. But all that was still slow goings. So a newspaper owner by the name of Joseph Pulitzer, that's this guy right here, put an ad in his paper asking for people to donate to the completion of the pedestal. In return, he said that anyone who donated would have their name put in the paper. And it worked. Now America has the money to buy the pedestal. Meanwhile, in France, construction has begun. Now, keep in mind, this is no ordinary statue. It was going to be a building too. People would be able to walk inside and climb up it. And it would also be outside, exposed to the elements. Strong winds, rainstorms, hail, snow, blazing sun, tourists. But I digress. Bartholdi decides to build the statue out of copper because it's lightweight, but also strong. And we're talking very thin sheets of copper here, about the thickness of 2 pennies stacked on top of each other. Bartholdi decides he needs some help with the structure of the statue so that the statue doesn't, just collapse on itself and topple over and be all wobbly and actually be a statue and all that. So here's where another name comes in, Alexandre Gustave Eiffel. Have you ever heard of the Eiffel Tower in France? Well, this is the same engineer who designed that building. Here you can see the iron framework of the Eiffel Tower. This is a view of the Eiffel Tower looking up and inside it. This is kind of what the skeleton structure of the Statue of Liberty is like. And then the copper is just over that. Over 300 sheets of copper were used in the construction of the Statue of Liberty. They were all individually labeled so that workers could put them together like a giant puzzle and made sure they were in the right place on the framework. Pennies are copper too, but they're, like a copper color. So why is the Statue of Liberty this bluish green? We know from the quiz earlier that it was not painted that way. Well, the truth is, when the Statue of Liberty was first built, it was this bright, shiny copper color. But over time, the air and the wind and the salt water from the ocean stained it that blue-green color we have today. Pennies will eventually change into that blue-green color too. That's just what copper does. It's a process called oxidation. Now let's take a look at some of the symbolism in the statue itself. First things first, the Statue of Liberty is over 150 feet tall. That's the size of a 12-story building. But if you count the foundation, starting from the ground and going up to the tippy top of the torch, then it's the size of a 22-story building. The torch the Statue of Liberty is holding represents lighting a path towards freedom. Those 7 spikes on her crown are not part of a crown. The spikes are supposed to be a radiating halo, and the fact that there are 7 of them represents the 7 continents and the 7 seas. If you look closely at the crown, you'll notice that there are windows in there. That's because visitors can climb up the statue, stand in the crown, and look out those windows. There are 25 of them, each representing a precious gem from around the world. If you look inside the book the Statue of Liberty is holding, you'll see July 4th, 1776 written in Roman numerals. That, of course, is the date of the signing of the Declaration of Independence and America's birthday. So, who is this Lady Liberty anyway? It's believed that she represents the Roman goddess of freedom, named Libertas. Statues of Roman goddesses were often draped in robes, so this Lady Liberty is dressed in long, flowing ones. And rumor has it, Bartholdi used his own mother as a model for the face. Aw, that's sweet. There are broken chains at the statue's feet, symbolizing freedom. And some even say that it also represents the end of slavery in the US. Speaking of feet, here's another little fun quiz for you. If Lady Liberty had to put on sneakers, what size shoe would she have to wear? A, size 10.5. B, size 879. C, size 50. Or D, size 128. If you guessed B, you'd be right. She would need to wear a size 879 shoe. Now I'd hate it if she stepped on my foot. If you couldn't already tell by now, this statue is massive. You see that pointer finger holding the book? That one finger is 8 feet long. There are 325 steps inside the statue leading up to its crown. That's... whew, I'm getting tired just thinking about climbing those. So, back to the story of the making of the statue. Unfortunately, the statue wasn't completed in time for America's 100th birthday in 1876, but it was finally given an official name: Liberty Enlightening the World. Finally, the statue was completed in 1884, and that very same year, another architect by the name of Richard Morris Hunt designed the granite pedestal for the statue to sit on. See, the statue is massive, so it needed something strong enough to support it. Well, I'd say the 24,000 tons of concrete used would be enough. At the time, it was the largest amount of concrete ever used for just one statue. Man, a lot of people went into the making of this thing, huh? I never realized that before. Anyway, the statue and pedestal were to be put in New York Harbor on an abandoned army base called Fort Wood. Here, you can see it's in the shape of a star. But that leads to another problem. How do you ship a 225-ton statue from France to the United States? You deliver it in pieces. The part with the arm and the torch had already been sent to the US to help generate excitement for fundraising. The rest of it was broken into 350 different parts and placed into over 200 crates. All the crates were loaded up on a ship in France, and it set sail for America. The ship was tossed and turned and nearly sank in violent storms across the ocean, but eventually, in 1885, the statue arrived in New York Harbor, where it kind of sat there for a while, because the pedestal wasn't done yet. But finally, on October 28th, 1886, the statue was completed. Crowds gathered from all over to witness President Grover Cleveland dedicate the statue. A few years later, in 1903, a plaque with a poem written by Emma Lazarus was added to the pedestal. And now, even today, the statue still remains in New York Harbor, an important, magnificent symbol of freedom. The statue has been through some tough times since then, though. During World War I, German spies set off a bomb not too far from the statue, and the torch had to be repaired. In fact, people used to be able to climb up into the torch, but no visitors have been allowed since that incident in 1916. Weather has also worn the statue down, and the statue and the pedestal both went in for some well-earned repairs in the 1930s. About 30 years after that, Bedloe Island got a new name: Liberty Island. More repairs were done to the statue in the 1980s, and the entire torch had to be replaced. But you can still see the original in the Statue of Liberty Museum on Liberty Island. And still, to this day, people come to America in search of freedom. And what's often the first thing they see as their boat comes into US waters? The Statue of Liberty, a symbol of freedom, an important national landmark. Remember how I said that a plaque was added to the pedestal in 1903 and that there was a poem on it? Well, the title of that poem is The New Colossus. And now that you know a little more about the story of the Statue of Liberty, let's hear that poem again. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse on your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me. I hold my lamp beside the golden door. You know, there's even more cool stuff to learn about the Statue of Liberty. We just didn't have time to fit it all in one video. It could be a good idea to look up some stuff about the Statue of Liberty on your own. It's really interesting. So, I will see you all next time. Thanks for stopping by, and in the meantime, remember to always be clever.
Hey, hey.